You ever notice how some people seem to wake up, make a cup of coffee, and suddenly check half their goals off the list before you've even remembered your password? Meanwhile, you're scrolling through social media thinking, I'll start tomorrow, or maybe next week. Discipline feels like a magical trait some people are born with, like the ability to whistle or juggle. But here's the thing. What if I told you there's a psychology trick that can make discipline almost automatic so it doesn't rely on willpower, motivation, or sheer brute force? And no, it's not about waking up at 5 a.m. or downloading another app you'll forget about by Wednesday. It's a subtle mind hack that literally rewires how you respond to your own habits. Stick around, because by the end, you might see your daily routines in a completely new light. The first type you meet when learning this trick is what I call the decision overloader. Picture someone staring at a closet full of clothes for 20 minutes, wondering why nothing feels right, while the clock ticks and breakfast burns. That's most of us when we rely purely on willpower. Psychology calls this decision fatigue. Every small choice you make during the day depletes the mental energy needed to do the things that actually matter. And here's where the trick comes in. If you can remove decisions before they even appear, your brain stops wasting energy fighting itself. Automatic discipline begins when behavior isn't optional anymore. Think of a morning routine set up like a domino line. Brush teeth, shower, exercise, coffee. Each action triggers the next. The less your mind has to debate, the less resistance appears. Maybe you've lived here, starting the day feeling like every task is negotiable, only to realize half your intentions evaporated by noon. Then there's the environment engineer. This is the person who rearranges the kitchen so snacks are out of reach, puts the running shoes by the door, and places the water bottle within arm's length at the desk. This isn't obsessive behavior, it's clever psychology. Humans are wired to respond to cues in our environment. If your space signals what to do, your brain follows without asking permission. Set the cue, and the behavior becomes almost automatic. There's research on implementation intentions, essentially. If X happens, I will do Y. For example, after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 5 minutes. Over time, this simple trigger creates a chain reaction of action that doesn't require debating with your future self. Maybe it's you. Maybe someone you know who can't stop scrolling until the phone is moved out of reach. That's the power of the environment at work. Another profile is the identity aligner. This is the person who stops relying on motivation because they've tricked their brain into thinking the behavior is who they are. Instead of saying, I need to exercise today, they say, I am someone who exercises. It sounds subtle, but it changes everything. Psychology research on identity-based habits shows that when behavior aligns with self-concept, it requires far less mental effort. You don't need to push yourself. Your brain simply acts in accordance with your identity. This is why some people can stick to routines for years, while others falter after a week. The trick here is to embed the desired action into the story you tell yourself. Instead of forcing discipline, you're updating your brain's internal narrative. Reflect for a moment. Do you think of yourself as the type who follows through, or the type who struggles to start? That subtle self-perception guides your actions more than you realize. Then there's the mini habit master. These are the people who make the smallest possible commitments so that starting becomes nearly impossible to resist. Instead of committing to an hour at the gym, they commit to 5 minutes. Instead of cleaning the whole house, they commit to a single shelf. Here's the trick. Starting is the hardest part. Momentum carries you forward. Psychologically, small wins trigger dopamine, which motivates continued action. The brain doesn't register 5 minutes of movement as a threat or chore it sees as success. Over time, those tiny actions compound into massive behavioral shifts. Maybe you've experienced this without realizing. You start folding one shirt and end up doing the whole laundry because the initial resistance is gone. The small, almost laughable commitment flips a switch in your brain that makes discipline feel easy, even enjoyable. Finally, there's the habit tracker. This person uses a simple visual cue, a calendar, a streak app, or a checkmark system to provide feedback and reinforce behavior. The brain loves feedback loops. When you see progress, your reward system lights up. Missing a day creates tension. Completing a day gives a mini dopamine hit. But here's the twist. It's not about shaming yourself for failure. It's about making success visible and undeniable. Discipline becomes automatic because you can see it happening, and your mind craves that continuity. Maybe it's you marking off each day of a new routine, feeling a small surge of pride each time. That's not motivation. That's the psychology of visible progress. And it works even when willpower is low. The psychology trick tying all these types together is deceptively simple. Make the behavior obvious, make it easy to start, and align it with your identity. That's the holy trinity of automatic discipline. When you reduce decisions, engineer your environment, use identity-based cues, start tiny, and track progress, the brain stops resisting. It's no longer a battle of motivation versus laziness. It becomes the natural path of least resistance. You don't try to be disciplined anymore. You are disciplined because your systems do the work for you. That's the hidden power most people overlook. Willpower is fickle. Motivation fluctuates. Systems, cues, and identity, however, are reliable. So which type are you right now? Are you stuck in decision fatigue, struggling to start? Maybe you're a mini-habit skeptic, not realizing how small commitments snowball. Perhaps you've already engineered your environment cleverly, but haven't connected it to your identity yet. Or maybe you've seen streaks fail and feel trapped by inconsistency. The key insight is that discipline doesn't need to feel hard, and it doesn't require constant moral effort. You just need to hack your brain with subtle, psychological cues that turn behavior into routine. Think about your morning routine, your work habits, or the way you try to eat healthier. Where could you remove friction, add cues, or link the action to who you believe you are? Even tiny changes can shift your brain from debate mode into automatic action mode. And once you experience that, discipline stops being something you chase. It becomes a natural part of your day, quietly but consistently showing up without fanfare. Discipline isn't about pushing yourself harder or never failing. It's about designing your environment, your identity, and your cues so that resistance is minimized and action becomes inevitable. That's the psychology trick that makes discipline automatic, the secret most self-help advice leaves out. It's simple in theory, transformative in practice, and deeply human in design. So, which type fits you? The decision overloader, the environment engineer, the identity aligner, the mini-habit master, or the habit tracker? Or maybe a mix of all five? Notice how these patterns play out in your life, and consider how small adjustments could create a ripple effect. If you start thinking about discipline this way, your daily actions may soon feel effortless rather than forced, almost like they're happening on autopilot, and that, ultimately, is the magic of psychology at work. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Hit the like button if this helped you.